Meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. McLean, may I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. McGinnis. Here. Mr. Heyer.
Here.
Mrs. Love.
Here.
Mrs. Crane.
Here.
Mr. Need.
Here.
Mrs. Egan.
Here.
Mrs. Horst.
Here. Our first order of business is to administer the oath of office for our newly appointed board member. Mr. Need, if you will join me here, please. I'll try to speak up so everyone can hear, but
Okay.
all right. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of member of the Board of Education
of member of the Board of Education
of Clarkston Community Schools
Clarkston Community Schools
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Welcome back, Mr. D.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community hearing. There is time for public participation as indicated on the agenda in items 3 and 9. Item 2 is approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the consent agenda as presented. Support?
Mrs. McLean, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Crane.
Yes.
Mr. Need.
Yes.
Mr. Heyer.
Yes.
Mrs. Egan.
Yes.
Mrs. Love.
Yes.
Mrs. McGinnis.
Yes.
Mrs. Horst.
Yes. Item 3 is citizens' request to address the board. You are given 2 opportunities to address the board. Under item 3.1, you can request to address the board on any topic that's on tonight's agenda, and under item 9, you're welcome to address the board on any topic. When making comments, please state your name and address and direct your comments to Mrs. Kelly Horst, President. Each person may speak for up to 2 minutes. Per established procedures, the board will not respond to questions or interact with the speaker during public comment. The sign-up sheet is the blue sheet over here. To my left, your right. And is there anyone who wishes to address the board tonight on tonight's agenda? Do you mind? You want to? Okay. Mrs. Crane is going to take a quick look for me and see if anyone had signed up. All right, thank you. All right, well, Mrs. Harbaugh, you are addressing us tonight, right? You're part of our presentation, so. Okay, gotcha. Okay, we're good. Let's just put this back here then. So obviously there will be another opportunity for anyone who wishes to address the board when we get to item 9, that sign-up sheet. Oh, I guess there's another one. Oh, well, thank you, Mrs. Crane. We'll stay there. So if at any time during the meeting you feel like you would like to address the board later on in the evening, please just go and fill out that sheet as directed. Thank you. Item 4 is superintendent update. I will turn it over to Dr. Ryan.
Thanks, President Horst. Good evening, community. Updates for this evening that are noteworthy. First of all, when you all came in, I think you might have seen the art display that we have up and down the hallway here at the board office. These will be on display for approximately a little over the next month, and we will have formalized art receptions on the evening of April 20th and April 25th, 5 through 7 p.m. that evening. If you're watching at home and would like to come up, we have student artwork displayed from all our different levels. It's kind of the best of the best across that our art teachers collected this year, and we're really proud of our students and what they put forth to put these displays up, and our art teachers that are really showcasing our very talented students. Also, this evening I'd like to congratulate Clarkston Community Schools teacher Jenny Bialis, who's over at Sashbell Middle School, and our bus driver David Page on receiving this year's Michigan Education Association Outstanding Persons in Education Award. Jennifer and David will be honored along with other winners at a special reception later this month that I hope to be in attendance. And we're also pleased to announce that our United Methodist Church has received the Friends of Education Award for our teaching staff. So local support. Obviously, our community is incredibly supportive of our students, our staff, and our schools, and it's great to see those partnerships recognized statewide. Also, this year, the Clarkston Foundation will be honoring an elementary teacher for the annual Teacher of the Year Award. Nominations are now open, and you can contact my office here at the board office or Heidi McLean. Individuals can be nominated by their principals, by fellow teachers, by parents and community members. So if you'd like to be involved or know a teacher that you really feel like is deserving, it's also this year an elementary teacher, which we're focused on. Don't be shy, and if you'd like to reach out, we'll give you all the information you need for those nominations. Lastly, tonight, I want to recognize, and I actually have one of our robotics, our Team Rush representatives this evening, Kyle Hughes, and I want to recognize their hard work this year, that they are now they're within the top 40 teams in the state of Michigan after this past weekend, and they will be heading down to Houston midweek, and in a competition between Thursday and Saturday. And I'm sorry, Kyle? Next week, I'm sorry. And we're going to be hopefully sending our goodwill and well wishes, and I'm planning to go hang out with the team on Wednesday this evening to send them off the right way. The team has done amazing in the past, and I feel like it's a tradition of the excellent students. Not only do we see like in the arts, but in technology and sports and all the different ways that Clarkston students show their talents, and this is another way. So thank you, Kyle, and for the entire Team Rush group. So thank you. And for one, I can even give you a little extra, just having been a judge earlier this month at one of the venues, of just how incredible the amount of work that goes into each of these seasons. So thank you, President Horst.
Thank you. Team Rush, they're prolific on social media as well. So if you like to follow them while they're traveling, as I do, you can watch live. You can see what they're doing, you can see what they're eating, you can see how they're placing, you can see who they're competing with. So follow Team Rush if you aren't already, and we'll be able to track how they're doing in Houston in live time. So good luck to you. Item 5 is our presentation items. We'll begin with 5.1, the recognition of some amazing student athletes. Katie Stevens and Gage Heikkinen? Heikkinen, okay, I was close. Mr. Call, I believe you're going to come up and introduce our students and their families this evening.
Okay, first face that way so the TV can get you. Then face the school board so they can see it. As Dr. Ryan was saying, we have a long tradition of excellence in many areas in Clarkston schools. One of them notwithstanding is athletics. We had a very successful fall and winter season. We're rolling in the spring season. But two of our best and brightest here are Gage and Katie. Gage, this is his second state championship in his weight class. We won't ask him what it is, but it's not like 105 pounds. Second state championship in a row for powerlifting. If you look up there, he squatted 575 pounds, bench pressed 320 pounds, and deadlifted 605 pounds for a total of 1,500 pounds for all three of those exercises. And it is pretty amazing. I've seen Gage in the weight room. He's a leader amongst the kids in our school. He's also a very accomplished football player, and we're very, very proud of him and all he's accomplished. He will be graduating this year, so congratulations, Gage. Good job.
Congratulations.
1,500 pounds is like lifting a cow as well. That's the average size of a cow, so pretty impressive. And then we have Katie Stevens. Katie is a sophomore at Clarkston High School, and this year she was the Division I singles female bowling champion. We're very, very proud of her. I have congratulated her, I think, in the hallways no less than 3 or 4 times, and she's very humble. That's the same look you get, and I can imagine when she's bowling, not a lot of pressure gets to her. She's very cool. That's one of the things that her coach said about her. Her younger sister, who's a freshman, correct? Very good bowler as well, so we're looking for great things to continue from her and her family as we move forward. Anytime somebody gets to the top of the top level of whatever they're participating in, it's very, very impressive. So Katie, excellent job, and congratulations from our community to you as well.
Yep, we have some gifts for you. I know we all want to shake your hand, and then parents, if you want to come up and do a little paparazzi moment, we're happy to let you come up and get photos.
All right, I'm for you.
Congratulations. Is it fairly new sport, powerlifting? I remember
It kind of goes up and down.
Yeah. I remember my son graduated at 19, and a friend of his was big into it, and I thought it was fairly new.
What you want, just jump right up.
It was a great first, and now it's since 2009 it's raw.
Yeah.
In Clarkston, it was revived in 2019.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
It was in 2009 to 2020.
Keep it up. All right, Katie, congratulations. All right, what's your high score?
266.
I think that's more than double what I've ever bowled.
My high was 189. So but that's compared.
Congratulations. Katie just told me her high score is 266, which is more than double anything I've ever accomplished on the lanes. Congratulations, students. We're so proud of you. State champs. The list keeps growing. Go Clarkston.
It does.
And parents, you're certainly welcome to stay, but families, we absolutely understand if you have other things to do, so please, you're not gonna, yeah, thank you so much. We'll move on to 5.2. It's the recognition of our national DAR Michigan State history teacher. Ms. Kuntz, if you want to come on up. With our honoree, Mr. Sennebaum.
Well, thank you very much for having us. And I'm representing Sashaba Plains chapter of the National Society of American Revolution, Daughters of the American Revolution, with our regent or president, Cindy Jan, and our American history teacher for our chapter, but also the American history teacher for the state of Michigan. So I just want to tell you, I don't know if you know what the Daughters of the American Revolution are. There's a sons too, so there's both. But each member of the chapter has traced their direct ancestry back to someone who served in the Revolution. Some were soldiers, some were people who took care of the roads, some were people who fed the armies, gave them meat or grain or whatever. Some signed religious or freedom pacts, and you could be killed for that if you did that back then by the British. So there were many men, there were some enslaved people, and there were some women. Not a lot, but some. So everyone in this chapter has that, and all across the United States. We're the largest women's service organization in the United States. But one of the things we do, obviously, we do historic preservation, we work with veterans, and history is the main thing. So every year we can recommend a teacher from our community as the teacher of American history. The criteria was incisive knowledge of American history and sharing it with students, foster a spirit of patriotism and loyal support of our country and constitutional government, having high standards, and requiring excellence at all times for students, and being committed to his students, enjoying good rapport. So it's not just teaching, but being a mentor and teacher. So to do this, we're required to have 3 recommendations beyond our chapter. So one of the things I thought was important was to ask a student. And Kennedy Bailey was one of Mr. Sensaba's students last year, and this is what she said. He greets the class every day with a clever phrase such as, "Welcome to the History Express. My name is Mr. Sensaba." and I will be your captain today. You will not leave that classroom without learning something new. She also said, I have more of an understanding of how America came to be, who we are as Americans, and our history in general. Some people might be memorizing dates of when things happened, but I truly know, understand, and learned what happened in American history. Some of his colleagues and the teaching staff here at Clarkston recommended him by making these statements. Alex brings history alive for his students through his masterful storytelling and vivid descriptions. And whenever you hire a history teacher, you need a good storyteller. Another one said, my 10th graders remember his passion when talking about the Civil War. They remember his stories and their learning. Sashaba Plains chapter of the NSDAR was pleased to nominate him, Alex Sennebaugh, as our chapter American History Teacher of the Year. We sent his packet to the state, and on Saturday, April 22nd, he will be honored in Lansing at our State Awards Day as the Michigan American History Teacher of the Year. Then his packet already has gone on to Washington, where he will be one of 50 American history teachers that they will read, and our fingers are crossed. So as a member, I think I can say we are so proud to have a Clarkston teacher win this. And Cindy, do you want to say anything?
Pretty much said it all, but I would like to give this on behalf of the Sashaba Plains Daughter of the American Revolution. We are proud to have Mr. Sennebaugh as our representation for Michigan.
Can I say a couple words about him and then we'll do that?
Great. A lot of paparazzi moments tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Sennebaugh, will you stay up there as well? Just wanted, as your superintendent, I also had the honor and pleasure of being Mr. Senenbaum's principal for years, and also several of my children have been through Mr. Senenbaum's classes. And I think the common piece to it, that passion and love for history that translates into connections in the community. And Mr. Sennebaum has done not only tours across this great nation in terms of bringing history alive to himself and experiencing between himself and his son, Civil War battles across the country, to great museums from Washington, D.C. to New Orleans, where with the World War II museum that we both been to. He's taken groups of students across Europe and followed the path from D-Day all the way to the final days of World War II in Germany. And I think one thing I can say as superintendent, somebody not only can inspire students, but even in trading back artifacts and reading material between myself and him over the years, he has really instilled even a value and passion and interest and connection into history with myself. So to kind of, I don't know if I could say a higher honor, at least in my experience of what we have in terms of teachers in Clarkston and those that really bring it every single day when it comes to that passion in history and bring it alive, And then you have the other added element of, as you heard from the Daughters of the American Revolution, of bringing it into our community, So many different angles that I can't say enough about Mr. Sennebaum. Maybe he'd be willing just to maybe comment on the project that you worked on within Clarkston that kind of brought that component of preserving the history and the value that we have in Clarkston and the history.
Thank you so much, Sean. It's an honor to teach history in Clarkston. It's such a great community that takes care of its schools, it honors its teachers and its employees, and it's just been 25 years now in this district. I'm very proud of the fact that my entire career has been spent here in this district. So last year, Joette gave me a call wanting to do a project where the kids were cleaning headstones of historical figures and et cetera over at Lakeview Cemetery. So in conversation, we had the idea to make biographical videos of Clarkston's town founders, everybody from the Clark brothers to the Valites and other important figures that are buried in that cemetery, And then the kids made these historical videos, biographical, about 2 to 3 minutes long. They took the videos, put them onto QR codes, and with those QR codes, they put on grave placards at the people's graves. So as you go by the graves, if you're there for the Memorial Day ceremony or just passing through, you can take a picture with your phone. It links you directly to the video that the kids made of that person. And then when the kids put the placards onto the graves, they cleaned all the headstones in their particular area and honored that person. So it was a very exciting project. Last year was the first year doing it. This year we're going to honor Clarkston Civil War veterans. And we're going to research hopefully about 20 to 30 or so veterans that served in the war from this area. And the kids will make videos detailing their military experience and their lives before and after the Civil War.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was thinking, now that spring is trying to spring here in Clarkston, it's almost the time when as our little second graders start to do that tour around Clarkston and start to learn about Clarkston history. What a full circle for some of our students now to really kind of revisit that history with you and in such deep detail, and what a benefit to our community to get to really learn even more about the heroes here in our community.
Absolutely. History is not just in a book, it's all around us. We just need to know where to look to find it. And the cemetery is a place that has our local history.
Yeah, fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're so
Thank
proud
you.
you're a teacher here in Clarkston.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Item 5.3 is a presentation from the Clarkston Farm and Garden Club. We'll welcome Mrs. Joan Harbaugh. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It's such a thrill from time to time to bring in community organizations with whom we partner, who help benefit our students and connect our students to things in our community. So we're so happy you're here tonight to share with us what's going on with the Farm and Garden Club.
Thank you, Mrs. Horst. It's been a while since Garden Club's been before the board to talk about our contribution to education. We proudly celebrate our 75th anniversary this year, and while I won't go back that far, I will summarize the last 10 or 12 years with the opinion that previous years were probably similar, maybe even larger dollar amounts spent since we've had to deal with a couple of years of COVID. But in the past, can you hear me okay? In the past 12 years, we've spent $12,000 to $15,000 a year on various education projects. Scholarships to seniors, mini grants to schools for programs related to the environment and nature, assemblies at Indian Springs, students attending outdoor classes at Clarkston Family Farms, and books and refreshments back when Project Learning Tree was active. Actually, the lion's share of our profits go to education or school projects. This past year, the club granted $4,000 to Clarkston Family Farms, and last fall, at the end of that, I spoke with Chelsea O'Brien about the project. Over 2,000 kids were able to participate because of our funding. Now, that's a lot of kids. That's a lot of students. I assume they were like all the third grades everywhere, or the fourth grades, or whatever age group. We don't get grants. We have no endowments, although I sure wish we did. Our profits are from hard work, selling wreaths and roping, sometimes in miserable weather, and our annual garden walk. COVID ended our well-attended greens market, and physical demands on our members, because this was a very labor-intensive endeavor, caused us to cancel it altogether, except for we make special arrangements for customers at their specifications. Many of us, like me, are well past our sell-by date. So, now I don't mean Joette. She's the dynamo in our club, so don't count her in that group. Anyway, my purpose in talking about our contribution to education is to update the board, but and for any recognition you might give us within the community. But Dr. Ryan, if your administration emails information, updates to parents, perhaps including some of this information regarding our club may be helpful, if they'd recognize what the children do. We get a fair amount of recognition from Clarkston residents and officials, mostly regarding the 5 or 6 library gardens that we tend and fund and maintain, and all those planters uptown, which we water and we water and we water, because summers are always so hot. But that's kind of like David versus Goliath, because there's probably only 1,000 people in Clarkston and upwards of 30,000 in the township. So perhaps if parents and their friends knew of our contribution, they would buy our wreaths and ropies and attend our garden walk. They might even want to join our club. That would be great. They could find more information about it on our Clarkston Garden Club website at clarkstongardenclub.org. So in closing, for this year we have budgeted over $18,000 for education projects. Just imagine if we spent about $150,000 in a 10 to 12 year period, how much we must have spent over 75 years. So the Clarkston Garden Club not only brings beautification to the community, we maintain our strongest focus on education. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Ms.
Thank you.
Harbaugh. And I think not only do we appreciate what you do for our students and to maintain our beautiful community, but I have a feeling that Dr. Ryan or Mrs. McLean can follow up with you or someone from the club afterward and see what we can do to help spread the good word of what you're doing in our schools and for our students as well.
Get Heidi a copy in the morning. Maybe I could even do it tonight, but in the morning I could email a copy of my remarks.
Excellent.
Absolutely. We'd be more than happy to help spread the word a little more out there.
Alter it, whatever.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. And our final presentation item this evening, item 5.4, is our CSM Tech program update. I know we have a whole team that's here to talk to us tonight. Mr. Call, Ms. Allen, Ms. Senzen, our CSM Tech teachers. Mr. Call, are you going to lead us off?
Yeah, I think I'll start it off
Excellent.
in a second. Want to make sure Heidi's got everything. We're all set? Okay. Thanks for having us here this evening. Our goal tonight is to provide a very thorough update on the Clarkston Science, Math, and Technology program at Clarkston High School. We're going through some changes. I think we're taking steps in a positive direction to bolster the program, and hopefully you'll hear some of that tonight, and it will help inform your thinking on the program as we move forward. I'm going to make some introductions here. We've got our teaching staff with us tonight. So we've got Mike, probably in order of height here. We'll go Mike Olson, John Webster, Kyle Hughes. We've also got behind me Kelly Sinison. Kelly, it's her first year in Clarkston this year, and she's a dean of students at Clarkston High School, and she works directly, kind of boots on the ground with the program. And we've also got Kelly Allen from the board office here. We're going to cycle through people tonight. You'll hear a lot of information, and then we'll have some time, I believe, at the end for questions, should you have them.
Hi. So the first part of this presentation is what us teaching staff usually present to the parents and the students. It's an abbreviated version of the presentation we give them. It's typically about 3 times as long as what you're going to get here today. Is that the clicker? Okay. So without further ado, I think you're next, right?
Yeah, thank you. So Clarkston CSM Tech is a STEM program within Clarkston High School. It's a 4-year cohort program where students will travel through the program together and have the same group of teachers with them. It's a challenging and rewarding program with high expectations, and it's a place where learning is celebrated.
What makes it unique
since he mentioned the height. What makes it unique is that it's like a family atmosphere. In fact, many students come in and they say that CSM Tech is not school. CSM Tech is different than school. Students come in and they get many creative learning enhancement activities. We specifically have some teamwork days for them, as well as we have an engineering challenge day for them, where we stop education as per se teaching and learning, and we give them opportunities to learn through activities. We also have our integrated final exams. Super Saturdays are something they do outside of the school day. We specifically ask them, it's like their own field trip to make the connections between math, science, and technology on whatever they're doing. If they go to the Grand Canyon, wherever, they connect their math and science to it. And we also spend a lot of time helping and working with the kids on their time management as well as their problem solving. And so our philosophy, at least mine, is fail faster, learn more, focus and execute. We want them to fail so that we can help them grow as responsible learners. As far as the teachers are concerned, the culture between the three of us is that it's a team, and we are always collaborating, we're always working, we're always trying to find new and innovative ways to bring the real world into our teaching. And we're very flexible. Maybe there's a science lab that needs 2 hours. We immediately work around that so that we can be flexible in a very rigid structure.
I got it. Yeah, so the learning in CSM Tech, we do notes and we do tests. There's a traditional aspect to it, but we do a lot of very interesting things to make learning a lot more fun that we think bring a lot of the things to life. One of the things that we're working on right now, it's not on this list, but we're working on a musical instrument project. In math class, or in Algebra 2, they're learning about logarithms. It turns out the frets on a guitar are logarithmically spaced, and so we have them build good little guitar and stringed instruments. We also have build panpipes. The length of the pipe is also logarithmic, so it's a cool way of tying kind of fun experiences to the learning we're doing. These are some of the other activities that we do. Mr. Olson runs a crime scene investigation project where there's a simulated crime scene. The kids have to collect and analyze evidence and determine who the bad guy was. There's woods journaling. I do an acceleration project in physics where I drag race my car up the back of the school, and the kids have to design an experiment to determine the acceleration of the car. It's been a big hit. The sledding lab is also something I do that's been a big hit too. We go out and go sledding every year, but it's not just sledding. Like, they have to design an experiment where they determine the coefficient of friction between the sled and the snow. So a way of, again, making just the learning we're doing already a little bit more fun. There's a yogurt and cheese lab where the kids have to make yogurt and cheese, and then they have to, there's like a culinary aspect to it where they have to prepare a dish and present it, and it's pretty neat. Some of them are pretty rough, but some of them are pretty delicious. There's math magazines, there's an architecture project, math movies. Our program has the unique experience to go to the human cadaver lab where they see actual cadavers and get to see what people look like on the inside. Ms. Hughes already talked about the Super Saturdays. We do team building experiences, growth mindset activities. Tech Day is once a year, right around Halloween, where the kids, we usually do a catapult project or a Rube Goldberg. These are engineering projects. That's just one aspect of the day. They do a number of other engineering challenges that day as well. The parents come in, they make us food. So these are all just ways to make learning, to do the learning we're already doing a little bit more exciting. We also offer a variety, sure. We also offer a variety of AP classes. This computer's about to slip right off, okay. We also offer a variety of AP classes. We offer AP Calc AB, which would be equivalent to the first semester of calculus in college. We also offer AP Chemistry, AP Biology, and we offer both sections of AP Physics, Mechanics and E&M.
I'd like to preface that by saying all safety protocols are followed in those crazy experiments they run, and no children or adults have ever been injured.
The benefits of CSM Tech, I cannot even start to address the slide. I had 3 children that were school of choice to this district so that they could be in this program. And so one of the things that Mike and I, Mr. Olson and I did many years ago is we said, wouldn't it be cool if our kids could come here? Because my oldest was only 6 weeks old when I started working for the CSM Tech program back when it was called Awesome Tech. And so if you could design and create an environment that you know is going to be rigorous yet fun, yet teach them the study skills and all of the things that they need to have in order to be successful, and to be able to have all 3 of your children go through it, that is what this program is about, and I could not be more proud of it. It is a challenging and rewarding program. It prepares kids for college or whatever their next step is. It connects the world to learning. It makes them take learning and connect to the world. It is, we very specifically over the last 5-6 years have worked on the individual whole child. We each class has officers, and they are the pulse of those classes. And if something's going awry, they come to the teachers and they say, hey, wait, you guys are going way too fast, or what is going on, and we communicate. So it's a culture, it's a family, it's an organization of student learners and adult mentors. I don't think we're teachers, I think we're mentors because we're helping those kids as they grow. And so we really try, as Mr. Webster had mentioned, we do growth mindset with these kids. We talk about learning, we talk about the brain, we talk now about stress and what they need to do to bring themselves out of a point of stress, fight, flight, or freeze, and breathe so that they can start thinking again. And these are some of the skill sets that we try to give them so that when they move on, regardless of what their next step is after CSM Tech, they know that they can be successful.
Sorry if I seem a little remiss. I want to go back to the first slide. I forgot. I know I told Jonathan I wasn't going to do this by him anyway. We're always in constant communication with our students. We collected data from the students, what the top 5 words to describe the CSM Tech program were. And then we created a word wall. So perhaps you one of these pictures up for the Clarkston community as well. And so the top 5 words, if you ever made one of these before, the larger the word, the more it was mentioned. And then if you really look at this a little bit, you see math and science are small. It's not so much about the math and science, it's about the community preparedness to be successful going forward. And the students see this. This is they're doing this data we collected right
Thanks. So as we continue to move forward with this process, we, am I too loud? We want to continue to emphasize student voice. We have tried to be very intentional, and as you can see, there's actually other people that are working on this too, but to get the voices of our students, what they like about the program, what they'd like to see changed or altered within the program in order to make it more appealing. We are going to add a 4th CSM Tech teacher. So in past years, I think the last time we had one was 17, 18, maybe around there. 17-18 school year, we had 4 teachers within that program. We've worked with our central office and Mr. Lucido to add a 4th teacher to that program, which we think is going to help expand. And that person is to be determined right now. As you guys probably know, we're in the beginning stages of scheduling. So we've got some student requests. We're looking to see what those class sizes are going to be. We're getting our marching orders from central office. And then we'll be looking to see if we add somebody in district or out of district to that, and that would be a science teacher that we're looking to add. Maintaining a common prep period. CSM, this is a no-brainer. CSM Tech has always run with 3rd hour common prep. It works out very good for them because they can plan on their conference hour. And then next year, we're also fortunate to have release time 6th hour for our teachers. We do have some relatively small class sizes in the PM portion of that program, but that's really going to lend itself to giving these individuals some more time to explore, to work, to bring suggestions to us so we can help guide them through shoring up this program for years and years and years to come. I think you guys have a pretty good idea of what the AM and PM portions of the program consist of, and I know we've spoken to it here earlier in this presentation. And one thing that I think is that we're already looking at is during that 6th period, giving kids what we call liberated attendance. The students will check in with their teachers, they can leave the building, they can stay in the building and go research in our learning commons. They can do some of the activities that are part and parcel to this program, like internships and things. They can, if they have an internship, they can leave and work through that. It doesn't have to be just on that 5-week tech period that they have. And that's also somebody you guys should know with liberated attendance. If a student is struggling, they don't necessarily get to leave. These teachers will set the parameters for their students. So if you're a student in good graces, you'll be able to do some things that are more autonomous for what they want to accomplish during that time. But some of them might have to stay there and do work under the eyes of the teachers that we have there. So we've got our strategic team, the teachers, Kyle Hughes, Mike Olson, John Webster, myself and Kelly Sinison continue to work on this from the high school. And we've got Kelly Allen and Nancy Mahoney, who unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight, but she is in constant communication with us. So as you guys can see, we have a solid team in place. We've done a lot of work behind the scenes looking at what other schools do for their STEM programs. I would say, and I guess I'll ad lib a little bit, when CSM Tech had its origins as Awesome Tech through Oakland Schools, they pulled from how many districts? 7 different districts. And it was kind of the only show in town. And they got some brilliant teachers to work on that, and through kind of no fault of their own, they determined that they weren't going to have that program anymore, and Dave Reschke was integral in bringing that program over here, and it flourished. And one of the reasons it flourished was because these guys were allowed the autonomy to build the program with the vision that they had. Subsequently, many schools, almost every school that I know of, at least of our size, has a STEM program. Many of those STEM programs are prepackaged programs. You can take them and you can plug them in. Mrs. Mahoney and I have worked with individuals from Oakland Schools who work with STEM, and we've looked into, researched, and also visited other schools with STEM programs. And we could do something like that. We could take a mechatronics program and we could pick it up and set it in Clarkston schools, but we wouldn't be getting what we get from these individuals here. So it's, you know, you guys know that enrollment has been down in this program over the last few years. There's probably myriad reasons for that, but we are committed to building this program back up, and I think it's a jewel in Clarkston. It really is. If you look at other STEM programs in different districts, they all wish they had something like we had. And I think with the resources that we have and the time that's been allotted to us, good things are going to happen. Kyle says okay. All right, we'll open it to questions. Any questions you guys might have, and we'll pick the resident expert to answer it for you.
So, sure. Trustees, now I guess would be a good time to open it up for questions, and I would just say, just for a matter of timing, right, you know that over these past couple of months, as we have started our budget period, the investment in CSM Tech, in terms of the additional staff person, in terms of some additional funding, to cover that release time was one of the priorities that the administration brought to us that, you know, that we are considering and as we move toward the final approval of a budget in June. So we felt that it was a good time to stop and really understand, all of us, to get caught up on, you know, just the state of the program, a little bit of the history, you know, understand kind of where they are now, and just reiterate not only the board's commitment to the program, but I know the administration and our direction to the administration to make sure that, you know, that everyone does understand how strongly the board feels about ensuring that this program is thriving and is growing, and that we are committed to it. And we know it is the standard bearer for STEM programs in Oakland County, and we want it to be for a very, very long time. So I appreciate all of the effort, and I'll speak on behalf of the board here, and then I'll certainly open it up to questions. And certainly there are people here who've been involved with it a lot longer than I have, but you know, we appreciate the effort, the many layers and the many perspectives that you're bringing to it, and I think that's what we all need to do as well. And I think, Mr. Call, you're right. There's never one answer. None of this ever exists in a vacuum in terms of why is something happening at any given moment. And so I do appreciate the depths and the lengths at which you are going to kind of investigate this and see what's going on and what can we do to continue to make this you know, bring the experiences that you all described for us so well, those real life experiences, that culture, you know, the excitement that we know those students feel. So with that said, I will see who has questions or would like to say anything. Mrs. Love?
All right, yep. I just want to reiterate what Kelly was saying. I really do appreciate you doing this presentation. I can tell you put a lot of time into it. I also want to thank you for answering all of my questions that I submitted. I know they were very lengthy, and you did a great job answering a lot of them and giving me assurances. I definitely agree this program is a jewel, and you definitely don't need to sell me on the great benefits of this program. And please don't take questions or ideas that I have as something like I don't support CSM Tech. In fact, it's the opposite. I care about this program so much. I know we all do. I just think it's time to really do a deep dive, all hands on deck, and give it some kind of tough love. So the only thing in the answers to the questions that I submitted that was a little concerning was that future planning has not yet begun. That was kind of a common theme. Well, obviously we all need to be thinking about the future for this program. I'm very passionate about it because I don't want to be sitting up here in 5 years and saying, oh, we need to decrease this program or, God forbid, eliminate this program due to a lack of enrollment, and hearing the excuse, oh, well, we did all we could, because right now I just feel like we have not done everything we possibly can. We need to definitely ask ourselves why our retention rate this year will be between 43 and 60%. We could consider doing exit interviews to the students who do not return. I'm glad we are asking ourselves why, when the district declined in enrollment about 1% last year, why CSM Tech declined 15%. We need to, in my opinion, open the CSM Tech Tech strategic team meetings to the public, and we need to add either former parents, graduates, or even dropouts of the program to the current team. While I recognize we have increased our recruitment efforts as a district, we are doing a lot more of the same things. I believe it's time for some fresh eyes on the team. We need to ask ourselves why, even though CSM Tech is an open enrollment program, why we only recruited 13 students from outside CCS. And I know you kind of touched on that. Are other districts catching up? Can we be more cutting edge? So I do believe you are working on that. So I don't know. I don't have all the answers clearly, but I do feel like that I need to ask. I feel like we need to have a discussion. I was more than happy to give the green light last month on spending $160K to CSM Tech for a revamp. My main concern is that it was stated at last meeting that the PM portion, to be honest with you and the community, won't be sustainable. It will mean extremely small class sizes, but part of a greater revamp. After the disappointment of losing afternoon classes just last year, why would we set ourselves up to disappoint the students and parents again? I don't understand that. It was also stated that after 1 year of blending afternoon classes with the traditional math and science classes, we have determined it is not the best option for the students and the staff. Well, why will it be a good idea or a good option in 1 or 2 years from now? So let's rebuild now, let's reimagine, let's revamp first, and then return afternoon classes when they are sustainable. So some alternative ideas, spend half of the $160K on a new counselor to recruit CCS kids. I know they've been crucial along with the teachers in recruiting. We can spend money on updating curriculum or equipment to make it more appealing for the kids. We could spend more money on new recruitment methods. Again, I don't have all the answers. I just would like a larger conversation, and I'm not convinced adding afternoon classes for just 1 year is the best or our only option. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Love. Mr. Call, could I get you just to address, or if your designee perhaps, to address the idea of returning to the afternoon classes this year, kind of what the plan is, the thinking behind that, and then I guess the sort of immediate long-term plan, if you will. I mean, is this really sort of the intention over the long haul to sustain the morning session and the afternoon session, at least how we see it now?
Right. I think when we look at the program right now, we will have to go through some growing pains. $160K, I wasn't aware of how much money that is being infused into the program, but I do know that if we were to go out and purchase another STEM program and start from scratch, you're probably looking at that or more. We have a proven track record with this program, and I think the collective thought was we are going to put it back the way it was, and we're going to try. We're going to have small class sizes. A lot of your not only STEM programs, but programs at school that cater to students with specific needs, be them students with learning disabilities or students with learning abilities that they have to differentiate for. You do find some lower class sizes. We've got a little bit lower class sizes in some of our other programs right at both ends of the spectrum. I think the prevailing thought is that if we put this program back together and we've got that 6th hour for these folks to investigate and look into some of the things that Ms. Love was talking about, that, and I can tell you we've gotten into some of that stuff that you've talked about that isn't part of a presentation, but we're doing it kind of anecdotally. And if I start going off on tangents, just say, shut up, Gary, and get back to answering the question.
Yes.
But we do exit interviews. There's exit interviews that are conducted by our CSM Tech teachers. Sometimes those exit interviews can be difficult for students because they're standing in front of the teachers that they're exiting, but we also have counselors that talk to those students as well. And this is something that we've learned over time. When attrition like this happens, it's kind of like when you see your old high school buddy who used to weigh a lot, and then they, see him about 4 years later and they go, wow, where'd all that weight go? It's like we've had this attrition over some years, And then all of a sudden we end up in a situation, despite some of our best efforts that we've tried to put in place over the years, to where we are now. I really think that we're on a good path with putting these classes in because, you know, hopefully through some of the recruitment efforts that we've done, we're going to see an increase in the amount of students that are entering the program, be it some 7th graders, 8th graders, or kids who are coming in 9th grade. And for them to know that they've got this contiguous program, I think is going to be very beneficial. And so that's the direction that we decided to take in conjunction with one another.
Madam President.
Can we let Mrs. Sanders answer, and then I'll turn to you, Mr. Meyer, if that's okay.
Just to add on to that real quick.
There's a lot there.
Some of the students were hesitant in even telling us if they were going to commit to another year because they didn't know what the afternoon was going to look like. So if you have a 10th grader who's like, well, why would I invest if I don't know that it's still going to be there? So as part of our reassurance to them that this is something that the district supports, this is something that the teachers and the school board want for you. So you know that program is going to be there when they're juniors and when they're seniors graduating.
And to kind of even fill in some more of that, because you had a lot of pieces to that, Trustee Love, I want to be able to, one, address that piece of restoring back the afternoon. Now, all programs go into the snuff test to make sure that they're viable, that they're constantly evolving. CSM Tech is special, but it's also one of 20, 30 other programs that we have even within the content areas. And we do our best to match resources with teacher, student need, desires, and part of our overall strategic efforts as a district where we want to head. And in the case last year when we made the decision to par down the afternoon, that piece was a direct reflection, as you know and have heard, with that enrollment piece. You talked about getting direct feedback from students and teachers, and when I met with that group of teachers and they described to me their experiences, our best intention was to continue to streamline the program and hopefully grow it forward from there. The muster when it came to getting that feedback was that it was not adding value, and it was a very negative experience collectively for the students involved in the afternoon and the teachers because of the blending of other students into the CSM Tech classes and the challenges of trying to teach and maintain not only the program as a whole, but trying to look at that afternoon and look at multiple needs, because these teachers are amazing not only for CSM Tech, but any, as you know, I know you'd agree with me, for any students that come in their classes. So when we make decisions as an administration, I take responsibility for our team. I was fully supportive of that effort, but looking in hindsight of what it did not help or continue to streamline. If anything, it made it near impossible, I think, for our teachers within that program to kind of create innovative opportunities, and it did not put the program in a good direction. So to me, the stopgap measure of restoring the afternoon, regardless of the enrollment that we're going to build forward, we need that to maintain the integrity of the program overall right now. I heard loud and clear from the teachers if that's what we wanted, and we needed to unscramble that part and then also add in that fourth teacher, because looking at an interdisciplinary team that it's a three-legged chair, the experiences that they wanted to provide the kids and the opportunities for collaboration, innovation, were somewhat stunted. So looking at that, to me, that was not a high, or I want to call it low level type immediate action to take to try to restore some confidence in the greater communities knowing of our support of the program, but also for the teachers involved to be able to provide the experiences for the students who are in there. If anything, I looked at that attrition rate alarmed like you did. I wanted to do something enhanced, and that's the feedback, let's say, from Kelly and Gary in terms of what they said, looking at the team with Kyle to be able to add that value in. Secondly, as we look into next year, the gift of time, we're really looking at the team. If you look at a month of that extra planning to be able to revision you're talking about 20 hours in a month, which to me is barely enough time to look at the professionals, what they need to really look at some innovative ideas. The good news to me about this whole story is that you do have an incredible team in front of me here, and looking at adding in another individual into that team I'm not going to be looking in 12 months of looking at pulling back. I'm saying that publicly now, in that I'm looking at we're moving forward, and we're going to build that program to meet that full day, and looking at the exciting options and things that we're going to add into it. To me, the gift of time and of support for that additional staff person are going to be really, in my experience, of any program that you invest in, when you give it care and love and has the level of attention of our community, our board, our administration, your superintendent, they have the green light to know that I'm 150,000% supportive of their actions moving forward. So.
I just feel like there's a disconnect here because I support bringing back afternoon classes. I don't support doing it for 1 year.
Well, I totally get that message, and I think we looked at it as that if we come with an innovative idea that might expand it in a different direction, I don't want to paint a picture of just create the same old everything. You know, there's going to be much of it I think is conserved, but I think there's always room for innovations.
Yeah, when this, and Kyle can nod her head yes or shake her head no. Originally, when the program moved over from Oakland Schools, Kyle was hired first, and then she came over and had a considerable amount of release time to meld what they did at Oakland Schools into our culture and our community here. And we looked back at that model because, again, there's some things that you can do with plugging and playing STEM programs, but Clarkston's never been like that. And something that I don't think a lot of people realize, when you look at teacher preparations, how many classes a teacher is teaching, the higher up you go in middle school, junior high, high school. Junior high, most teachers will have a couple of preps. You know, you might have somebody that has 3 preps that they're teaching throughout the day. That's not uncommon at the high school to have 3 preps. And then if you look at CSM Tech with 3 teachers in that program and what the students need to get to get through the program, Kyle has, do you have 5 preps this year? What did you have, Mike? 5? And Webster has 4 one semester and maybe 5 the other semester. And they have to be very nimble because some of these preps they're doing multiple times throughout the year during that tech block. So if we wanted to have a program historically, you know, building it like we did in the past and we were successful with utilizing these guys and their expertise, we really needed that 4th teacher in there because you can't teach 5 preps and then, you know, try to make program improvements. So that was something that we really wanted to afford to these guys. And I'm with you too. I want to see this continue over years and years and years.
Mr. Heyer?
Thank you, Madam President. When we brought this program over, it was really innovative to actually go after certain staff in the education space and go after a specific program. And Oakland Schools had later told me that it was a mistake that they got rid of it. And so we were fortunate enough to be the benefactor of that mistake. And when we did bring it over, it required an investment. You know, we had to buy new technology. You can't have an integrated math and science program with old technology. And so we invested at that point. We've since refreshed at least a couple times, maybe more. But, you know, when we're talking about reinvigorating a program, I think we have to invest in the infrastructure as well as the program itself, including the team. And so, you know, having some innovative components there, I think is going to make a big difference. And I think we need to make a 4 or 5 year commitment to sort of refresh here. You know, if, you know, there's certainly a time frame where like, hey, maybe this is not the direction that we're going and we need to go in another direction. But, you know, why would you enroll in this program if we are saying up here, hey, it's a 1 year commitment or a 2 year commitment, right? And they're enrolling in a 4 year program. Like, that's not going to boost enrollment. And so I think we need to make the commitment to say, hey, this is a 5 year path that we're on where we're going to maintain our investment, grow the program, you know, over hell and high water. We'll evaluate sometime later to see what it is, but in the meantime, we're going to make it work. And granted, you know, in education, we try things and we find out certain things don't work and we move in a different direction. I appreciate Dr. Ryan of your being candid and saying, hey, we eliminated the afternoon piece and it wasn't a direction that was beneficial for our students, and we're moving back on that. And granted, I think for the next year, saying we have small class sizes is certainly a benefit and a selling point. Because in a world where, you know, we have some of the smaller class sizes in our neighboring communities across the board, this is one where we could say we even have smaller cohorts here. And that's something that I think could be a major selling point. I like the concept of release time. I think when we look at innovating our curriculum and our programs, I'm sure you've all heard me say, like, subject area coordinators are so critical. Like, that is not an area we should look to save money. Like, we have to have people in those positions to make sure that our curriculum is aligned and on pace and evolving as we need it to evolve. And I think this has a parallel here of that. This is an innovative program that we've grown. We sort of started with a piece, and it's evolved and grown since, we took it on, and I appreciate all the efforts for the team in doing that. Adding a release hour and adding a teacher, I think, is the way to say, hey, amongst yourselves, the CSM Tech sort of subject area coordinator group, to figure out how do we make the program continue to evolve. Because what we did 20 years ago or 10 years ago, some of the finals and project-based pieces, they're great. It might be time to kick it to the next level. How do we use ChatGPT in our next final of figuring out just how lousy it is and how beneficial it can be at the same time. And there's new technologies and things that we've got to adapt and innovate, and we want to do that better than anybody else out there, and that's going to take that time. And so I appreciate that investment. I think in terms of enrollment and scheduling, we have a student-driven schedule. I hosted a foreign exchange student, and I know some of you have been involved with foreign exchange students. They think that's crazy that you actually pick your classes. And so there's some benefits to that, and there's some downsides to that. And I think as we went through a period where, from March to the end of the year in 2020, we had no in-person school. Well, guess what? An integrated math and science program, where most of it is hands-on and in the field, that's not very exciting in a pandemic. And then, having a couple months, at home the next year and having to socially distance, not being able to do field trips. And Mr. Olson, I don't remember the name of the club that you do that's absolutely crazy and unhinged, but those sorts of experiences
Medieval
when
battle.
you're, what is it? The medieval or
It's
something?
Daga here, and they LARP. That's live action role
Yeah,
playing.
exactly that. Those are the kind of things, the field trips, the clubs, robotics, the things that you're involved with that make the program cool, right? When you see whatever craziness is going on, or when Mr. Webster is squealing his car in the back, people are seeing that and going, what the hell's going on? I want to be a part of that. And so I think, obviously it makes sense that we took a little bit of a hit. Now we have to focus. The first part is focusing on what we want to accomplish. And I think doing all of these pieces can get us back to where we're growing enrollment. And some of that may be school of choice. I think a lot of that has to be our own kids to figuring out what's right there. And I think, we've talked a few times over the years about some kind of feeder program where we start getting kids younger interested in math and science. And, I don't know that, 6th grade, and we talked about 6th grade and the pressures of sort of deciding big life curricular things in 6th grade is not necessarily great. But at least, we're growing STEAM programs in the middle school, and, how does that relate, and how does that potentially onboard kids? There's obviously a math component that needs to be there. But all in all, that's my long-winded way of saying I'm excited for the investment. I think we should commit, for that 4 or 5 year window to say, hey, what do we need to throw at this? And over the next year, when, we're expecting big, awesome ideas out of the team, we need to be receptive to those things, and we need to try some different things. And not every single one of them is going to work, and that's okay. I think we've got a very safe environment here where we can try some things and say, hey, that didn't work, let's try something else.
All right, thank you. Ms. McGinnis?
Thank you, Madam President. As of course, a longtime supporter of CSM Tech, and having been around in its infancy, I think some of my questions are a little more maybe curiosity based, and hopefully that they, if they're out of the box enough, that might stir some future or additional thoughts. So I know that at one time we had a much higher school of choice participation, and then I think it's gone down because everybody else is doing or trying to do what we do, but nobody does what we do. That's just all there is to it. And I really would like to see if leadership and or teachers can work with the other districts, who I can't imagine aren't struggling in the same way we are, to find some mathematical and financial way that we condense the program and let us become the ISD of CSM Tech again for the northern Oakland County area. But not take all of their FTE of it or something where we're patting each other's back, and that we're building the program for everybody. One of the things I think some of the students might not realize, that Team Rush is not CSM Tech. So as a student population, I think many of our students know the kind of work that goes in after hours and on the weekends with Team Rush, and I think they're fearful that they want a life of high school students and they want to goof around on the weekends and they don't want to be committed to that. I think we need to do a better job of making sure our students know that CSM Tech is not Team Rush. We need to find a better way to touch more students. I think with the feeder program, I think the Girls Maker Mania is a great launching pad for more girls' participation in particular, but I think that if we had potentially a STEM club in our junior high that was a feeder, or a STEM club, a summer STEM club, again, that was a Northern Oakland County club, that might help be the feeder program for it. Let's see what else I have here. Steve was talking to conference talk when he was talking about chat HPT or whatever it's called. That was conference talk.
I use it to write all my winning robotics scripts this past weekend at the state championship.
Well, our students could probably do it in 1/3 the time that they do it themselves personally, I'm sure of it.
Mrs. McGinnis, while you were talking, I had this envision, like, maybe we need to do a sale. So, like, you know, when we have agreements with other districts, right, we get a portion of their FTEs. You know, maybe if we have space available, a program we're committing to in the next few years, we've got seats available that, you know, really aren't costing us anything additional to do because we've committed to running the program. Why don't we, you know, work on, hey, instead of your, you know, 1 hour of FTE that we're going to take, let's take half of it. It's in the district's benefit to send the kid to us, so we could capture them and they pay less than that full FTE.
Right, and it's a win-win for the district, it's a win-win for the student. We have capacity, we might as well reach capacity, and once we exceed capacity, then we have a different problem to deal with. But let's worry about capacity first. So I suspect that in the past we've tried to push the curriculum of CSM Tech into the general classroom. I'm just trying to find a way to push some of the ideas of CSM Tech into the classroom and let the students know, oh, by the way, this isn't just something we're doing in this class, this is what they do over in CSM Tech. But they do it with this, but then they do this with it. So that we provide a way to entice the students who are doing it in maybe the math or the science class that's the, I'm going to call it general class, but they know that it's also being done at CSM Tech and they get to do other things with it that these kids don't get to do. That maybe it will generate a curiosity for them to say, well, I really like this, or I didn't think I was going to like it, now I like this, but what might I like that I still don't know? So because I think the problem with the majority of students is they're fearful of the hard work that they perceive it to be, but they don't know how easy it might be until they even try it, and we can't even get them to try it. So we need to find a way to get them to try it so that they realize it's not as hard as they think, and that it's okay to fail, and that it's fun to succeed. So those are some of the ideas I have, and I know you know that you can always count on me for support, okay? Anything I can do to help, just let me know.
Thank you, Mrs. McGinnis. I'll look this way and see who has additional comments or questions.
I will be very brief. I think some of the ideas mentioned already are excellent, and I would add to Mrs. McGinnis's comment about, you know, trying to make sure the kids can participate in other extracurriculars or clubs. I think it's important at the end of the junior high phase and certainly through the high school phase. This is a social experience too for our kids. And I also like the idea of maybe marketing it in such a way that it's not so intimidating. You know, when you hear AP, some kids are like, "Ooh, I can't do that," but there are probably some kids that might excel if they're in that smaller class size and are really pushed and get that hands-on experience. You know, we talk about this when we talk about our construction tech kids. They work from the fingertips in. So I think there are some great opportunities. I love the idea that we're going to have more hands-on learning. The only thing I can add that's different is maybe understanding a little bit more about the employment opportunities that are maybe 5 years out. We learned at national conference, some of the things that we do in schools today is we're preparing kids for jobs that don't even exist yet. And so I think opening up that possibility of, well, what do you want to be? And maybe you want to be a software engineer, or maybe you want to be a material scientist, or, but I think the point that, you know, if you're in this program, you're in robotics, is a little bit, we have to kind of maybe disassociate them a little bit more, because I think that's what kids think that they have to socialize with them, is the robotics team. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing in terms of connecting the two, but it's just not for everyone. So those are my comments.
Thank you.
If I may, a lot of times when we present, they ask that question, and we tell them, no, you don't, they're separate. So that is mentioned to the students.
It's probably just an overwhelming perception, though, I think, in the district, and maybe that's why parents aren't like, they're like, that's robotics.
Thank you. Mrs. Crane or Mr. Need? No. Okay.
Madam President, if I might
Yes.
just add a quick comment, what Ms. Egan said. I don't always think it's just the students, it's the parents. Oh, I got to drive you up there on when? Oh, overnight I got to come pick you up. So I think there's some parent apprehension about potentially what they perceive to be the extra hours, but again, the parents perceiving it's Team Rush versus CSM Tech. So I don't think that it's just the students that we might need to clarify that with. I think it might even be more the parents that we need to clarify that with.
So I can make two, based on so far the whole table. A couple other
Yep.
things related to what I heard here, and I think you're hearing this from our administration too, is that it's not just a one-year commitment, it's a long-term commitment. The commitment was to allow the team to be able to revision certain parts that they feel that could change if they want to, if they feel like it fits into longer-term vision and keeping the viability, the strength and excitement of the program. And as far as I think I also put out to the team, you know, as we look at a strategic process within that group, you know, I'm going to look for some feedback from this team in terms of that look, you know, adding other individuals as far as, you know, student and parent and, you know, a broader feedback level of what your feelings are at a later time. But I want you to entertain that idea of, you know, who we would include to kind of create and generate the, you know, different intervals that might be really helpful to provide some of that feedback and excitement of ideas. So.
All right. You know, I've been sitting here for, well, tonight and then over a couple of days trying to understand this one-year commitment, and I think it's because we're tying this to the budget, which we have to if we're adding the dollars and resources. So because I did not have that perception, and so I was struggling a little bit to try to understand where that perception came from. I mean, we get that fourth teacher on, he's staying. I mean, we're not bringing in a teacher for 1 year. We have to account for those dollars in the budget, and I think that's, you know, that's a new investment, and that's why we're talking about it. And then, I mean, obviously this planning phase is, we're anticipating is hopefully the 1 year, and we've got the ideas and we're ready to evolve the program. But, I mean, am I understanding that correctly? Okay. So I think that's maybe where some of that disconnect
And Dr.
was.
Ryan, if we need to demonstrate that commitment with, you know, any of our presence, or, you know, if we need to show up at something to showcase, hey, the school board is really behind this, the administration is really behind this, I'm sure you'll communicate that, and we could,
I
we
think
could
that
work.
message is loud and clear to the team tonight. It's not fickle or, you know, conditional. It's that we're going to do this. I think in everything I've ever touched in Clarkston been involved, especially with a group of individuals like before you right now. You put attention, you put love, you invest in it, and it happens, it works. You create the conditions for success, and then you support it. Knowing that what they need right now, or what might come up on the wish list, or what we might need to invest in the future, I mean, that's not determined tonight. You know, that's going to be future conversations. But I think hopefully you're hearing loud and clear our commitment moving forward.
Okay. Ms. Love?
It's going to happen. It's exciting.
So I just want to be very crystal clear. Can I get a 4-year commitment to the afternoon classes, or yes or
I would
no?
say that I would give a commitment related to, if it doesn't hamstring these individuals, I would be committed to the fourth teacher into the program for a multiple year, for at least going 5 years out. But I would like them to come back with the schedule, what that looks like. You know, I don't know, maybe we'll have an afternoon, maybe it'll be every other day program. I can't even imagine what they come up with, but I also have experience that the more constraints you put on planning in an early phase, then it kind of limits ideas. So I wouldn't say we're eliminating. I think that we're looking at it as with an open mind of what comes next. But we'll bring the board every step of the way.
I think it's important for the students. I know there was a lot of ambiguity from January when this was being discussed amongst the current students. Are there going to be afternoon classes next year or not? You know, technically, we haven't approved it yet, and open enrollment has started today. So I think it's really important that the students and the parents don't have that ambiguity going forward. So whether it's, if you can't do 4 years, I would just really feel comfortable knowing we can tell students 2 years, and then we're gonna reevaluate and just get these parents and these students the answers that they want. I know a couple students are not enrolling next year because they didn't know. They didn't know what next year was gonna look like, and they didn't like that. So I still don't know if we can't solidly give a timeline on our commitment to adding this teacher. I don't know if it's the right thing or not.
So then can I reemphasize that we're committed for, well, I will say 5 years for adding that teacher in. I'm just committed on keeping an open mind of whatever they look at that structure is. If it is to keep an afternoon program, and that's going to be what we're going to take to build, as I think Mr. Heyer was saying, in terms of looking at getting through the bumps of innovation, we're there. If they recommend something else, then I would like to take that to this board to be able to update that. So I'm not drawing back. It's not going to be cut from the afternoon because of budget or because we just don't want to do it. We're going to listen to the will of the team, because I think that's what's going to make it successful.
Yeah, I think, Mrs. Love, what you're getting at is we want to make sure they're getting a 4-year CSM Tech program experience. You know, what that looks like today versus what it looks like tomorrow certainly could change, but we want to make sure that the CSM Tech, you know, sort of experience that they're expecting is going to be there for them, and I think we're on the same page with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that commitment has been stated loud and clear, and I think our support collectively as a board has been demonstrated and communicated this evening.
Loud and clear.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you being here tonight. Appreciate you listening to all the feedback and comments. And now we'll move on to action items. 6.1 is approval of personnel changes. May I have a motion, please?
I move the Board of Education approves personnel changes as listed on the attached sheets.
Support. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 6.2 is approval of the food services equipment purchase plan. May I have a motion, please?
Just as a point of order, I'm sorry I didn't mention this earlier. Can we include the amount in the motion? And we have a lot of detail and different components here. I just wanted to be clear.
Oh, I'm sorry. On this one right here?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think it's the
Is it the 1.3?
529, 125.38.
1316
Oh, no.
07801.
We have to, no,
One-
it's the 1-3.
Mr. Severson?
1315, 244.
Is the total amount we're approving this evening is the 1.3, correct?
Okay.
The quote amount,
So, Ms.
okay.
Crane, if you'd like to make the motion.
That's right, because that's the excess fund balance of 1.3, but the total amount that we're.
The
approving
quote
tonight,
amount,
that's not 1.3.
the quote amount is
Yes.
1,305,244,044 cents,
All right,
right?
yes,
You see it?
I do.
Okay.
I move that the Board of Education approves the purchase of assorted food service equipment in the amount of $1,315,244.44 to spend down the excess food services fund balance as presented.
Support.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for chewing through that. Are there any comments or questions? We do have our food services director here who can answer, and Ms. Rogers?
I just have a quick comment. I just want to reiterate the fact that this, if we don't spend it this year, we lose it altogether, right?
No, it's required by the state of Michigan. We're not allowed to carry over, food service is its own fund, and it's only allowed to carry so much fund balance. I see. The state of Michigan sends us a letter in about around February, and they tell us, this is how much you are over, you have to spend it.
Okay.
And we have to have an approved plan with them by June 30th and how to spend it down. And it has to be spent on food service only.
Okay, well, I know during my orientation, we met with the department, they were already thinking about ideas, and I think it was a really thought out thing, so I fully support what they came up with, and I'm proud of the department.
Yeah, we've known about this all year, that it was coming, and Matt has spent a lot of time on developing a way to spend all this.
You can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've really identified these needs over the last really probably 3 to 5 years of what equipment we've needed, and it's a great time to be able to do a big chunk of it and get the equipment in the hands to increase the overall caliber of our program.
Madam President,
Ms. McGinnis?
is there a possibility, or I should say, what are we doing with the equipment that we're pulling out if it's still usable? Is there an avenue to repurpose it?
I'm going to have Mr. Severson answer that for you.
Yeah, so most of the equipment is from like 2000, early 2000s to the late 90s, so it's pretty much seen its course. So most of it, we're going to put out, we're probably going to do like a formal bid process for the equipment. We're just going to include like removal and install of the new equipment, so it's really not, there's really no value to it as of right now. It's really just scrap.
So the reason I ask is I'm pretty sure that I'm aware that we provided some old sinks to the farm. And so that's where my thought process was, that if there was anything that was still usable in the capacity of what the farm does with our students, that would be great, even though I know it's
Yeah, we could reach out.
it's better than what the garden hose that they had.
Right, and we can reach out to them and see if they have something
Perfect.
specific, and we can work on, when we do the removal, if that's something they want.
That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, any other questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Item 6.3 is the second reading and approval of Board Bylaw 0144.1. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the changes to Bylaw 0144.1 compensation as presented.
Support.
Trustees, remember we had our first reading of this last month, had a discussion. Were there any other feedback solicited or that you received from trustees?
None. This is just a requirement on us due to IRS rule changes.
Right. Okay. Any other comments at this time? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We will move on to item 7, report items. 7.1 is a bond update. We will bring up Mr. Goodman. The first of many bond updates I'm sure we will enjoy over the coming years.
And as we start, I want to not only welcome them, thank you, President Horace, just a little bit to have Mr. Heyer and Ms. Crane today working with the team. It was a great day. It was really kind of engaging, and I just wanted to probably say that, man, they were super focused, and it was really, really nice to have their support, interest, and questions. So,
thank you. Thank you. So yes, it is going to be the first of many. With the successful passing on November 8th, we started meeting the following Monday, and we've met pretty much every Monday except holidays and snow days from that point. So here we are in April, and we finally have some things that you can see. And Mitch Dizer, if you haven't met Mitch, he's been with us through our last bond. He is the lead architect on this project, and Mitch has been awesome to work with. He's going to kind of walk us through some of the planning. We've had approximately 20 design team members between the principal of the junior high and several teachers. We have our consultants from AUK and GMB and CBD. Our technology team is on that, of Angela and Jason, and of course Jessica and I, and we sit in those meetings as a big picture, and then we take smaller with the department heads when we're working in their areas to get their feedback. So there's been a lot of feedback, still a lot of work to go, but I think you'll be excited to see what we have tonight. We're also working in parallel with the new junior high with getting started on the AC projects for the elementaries and middle school. And those are on target to go out to bid yet this summer and work to start in 24. So we can answer questions at the end, but we're going to be pretty quick to go over this. So I'd like to introduce Mitch.
Yeah, thanks, Wes. Thanks everybody for their time tonight. And as Wes mentioned, really the work going into this project started even long before the bond vote, right? So there was a lot of prep work that went into that. And really part of that was developing what we call the architectural program, which is the list of all the spaces, how big they are, what they're next to, so that when we went to vote, and went to Treasury, we really understood what the junior high project wanted and needed to be. So a lot of the past few months have been spent validating that, and also taking the design team that's been put together on tours of facilities in Michigan that have been built new to help people see and visualize what their space could be like, and again, kind of validating what goes into this building. So it's really been only in the last maybe month or two that we've started to put pen to paper on how this all lays out and how it could all work, and we're going to share some of those early ideas with you now. So I'll point out this is a very long process and we're quite early in it still. So a lot of what you'll see here is by no means final. And so really just excited to share where the team is headed with this and some of the vision we've got so far. So if we go to this first slide, this is an overlay of the new footprint on top of your existing junior high footprint. And really I want to take some time here just to talk about constraints. Because this site, one of the exciting things about it from an architectural standpoint is the challenge of how all the pieces have to fit together to make this project happen. So we are keeping the existing auditorium, that's part of the building now, and we will also be keeping the area up to the north of the plan, or what's shown on the drawing is north, of what's currently the CTE, construction trades area, and also the district facilities office. So there's two portions of the building that we need to keep. And we also need to keep the rest of the building in business as we build this over a series of phases. So how the building lays out and how it is shaped is really in response to how we keep the school functioning during the construction process and how we tie into all those elements that we need to keep going. And kind of how and you'll see in some of the upcoming slides on kind of how we're beginning to approach that problem. So we go to the next one. So this is a little more of an enlarged overlay of kind of the new footprint as we're looking at it over the existing. And you can see, we're on top of a lot of the existing building. And so the way we're currently planning to approach this is that your new gymnasium area, the area highlighted in blue, and at the end of the program we'll get into a little more detail on where all the spaces are and what they're next to. But we have to build your new gymnasium area first, kind of in that cutout area between the auditorium and your current gym. And then once that's built, then that allows us to take down your current gymnasium area, and that gives us the space on the site to build most of the academic wing, right? So we have this kind of hopscotch system we need to follow to get different areas built while keeping the areas you're occupying still up and running. So we'll build the gymnasium first, tear down your existing gymnasium, build the academic wing on top of where the gym is. That will then allow us to take down the academic wings and kind of move our way around into what's highlighted in green, which are more the cafeteria, elective areas, and fine arts and that sort of stuff. Maybe the only other thing to point out into this, in that blue block is also an area for mechanical systems, and it's really a new heart for this new building so that as new phases get added on, we can kind of branch out into those new phases and we don't have to worry about repulling, mechanical systems and electrical systems all over again every time we tear down part of the building. Okay. So this is just kind of a written diagram of how that works out. So we have all those different phases moving around the space as I kind of just described. And then one of the last constraints I wanted to talk about are levels. As you're all aware, that building is on lots of different levels, which can make navigating it a little bit of a challenge. So one of the goals of the design team has been to simplify that as much as we can. And so the way we're approaching this now, those two numbers represent feet above sea level, if you really are interested. But so most of the building will be green on one level, which is really our goal, right? So all of those spaces will be accessed on one level. We will have a small area, that blue area that's up about 5 feet. That's an existing level and part of the area we're keeping and just the grade of the site and the way this comes together, we need to keep it that way. And then, not shown on this, but there is a 2-story component to the classroom wing that allows us to keep the footprint of the overall building kind of as tight and compact on the site as possible, just to maximize our use of it for all the things that we need to fit on here. All right, so what is actually in this wild footprint that we've put together for you? So on the left-hand side of the space is the academic wing, so that's where all of your classroom spaces are. We've got it broken up into what could be considered neighborhoods to try and reduce down the scale of the building so it doesn't feel quite so large to students. It's very flexible in its layout, so we're not prescribing how the building spaces get used as far as team teaching, is it by department teaching. We're trying to be as flexible as possible in the layout to accommodate whatever teaching style is appropriate for the district in the future. And that's really been a theme of our discussions with the design team, and what your teachers and staff have been telling us is, we need to make sure this can accommodate a lot of different options of how we're learning styles, how we're going to learn into the future that maybe we can't even see at this moment, but we need to try to prepare for it. So to the left is really more the academic side, and then right in the center, that diagonal core on the bottom side of that is the main office and entry area. That's where people will come in from parent drop-off. That's where principals will sit. The yellow bar kind of at the back of that is the student services area, so that's a little closer to the academics, but still allows it to share resources with the front office. In that central hub, that brown area behind it, that's where your media center or learning commons will be. So again, a hub of activity for students, working our way around the yellow athletic areas. Back behind that will be your cafeteria and commons area for the space. Again, that can serve multiple purposes, so it will act as a pre-function lobby area for gymnasium and auditorium events. And then at the far kind of right side of the plan, those smaller rooms are all of your specials or elective spaces. So you have your art spaces, STEM classrooms, band, choir, orchestra, and then all of the support spaces for the auditorium that are getting added as a part of the bond as well. Green room spaces, changing in dressing rooms, and that sort of thing. So overall, it's about a 314,000 square foot footprint when you include all of the new spaces and all of the renovated spaces. And yeah, it's coming together. We have a lot of work to go, but it's been exciting working with your team on it. I'm happy to get into as much detail as you want, but I'll keep it big picture for now, unless you have more specific questions.
I also add in, we're looking, we had feedback from our board members today that we'd like to come back at a later meeting in May or June to do a workshop to kind of dig in a little bit deeper. And I left off that I was going to meet with President Horst to kind of discuss some different options we'd have.
Yeah. Are we still thinking this academic wing is multiple stories?
Yes, that's correct. So what you're seeing on this page is the second floor. You can kind of see the first floor ghosted in underneath it. So yeah, the academic wing is 2 stories tall.
Can you just show those next two as well?
Yeah, and if you go down to these last few slides, again, very early in development, but we're starting to look at kind of, how big the building is and what we call massing architecturally, how it sits on the site and how it works together. So this is a view kind of looking towards the main entry. That's that darker colored bar to the right side of the page. With the office area right next to it, and then that main bar kind of on the left side is a 2-story classroom volume. So that's where all your classrooms are in the space. And then just a different view of that from a different angle. So this, from here you can see that again, that colored bar is more of that main street that connected the front door to where the bus drop off will be, and you're seeing kind of the baseball field side of the academic wing from here.
Madam President, I have a question.
Ms. McGinnis.
If I recall correctly from one of the first diagrams where you showed the yellow phase 1, different color, green, blue, yellow phase 1 seems to be the current administrative office right now. Is that correct? Or blue? I guess it's blue phase 1.
Yeah, if you go up one more slide. Yeah, so our blue phase 1 is actually below where the administrative offices are. We're infilling the front yard, essentially, of the junior high.
Is green.
So Yeah, the black lines on this are the outline of the current building, and then the colored blocks are the outlines of the phases of the future building.
So is the
If you go
the
up one more,
leftmost part of the green next to the blue, the current office, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
because with the auditorium where I can see the auditorium, it just looks like so small of a spot that that couldn't have been the office, but okay.
Right now, it's
Okay.
above it.
if you do the first one you showed, the overlay, it gives you a good picture of how much that new part is in the parking lot compared to over the building.
Oh, yeah, I see that. Okay.
So, board members, as we've done construction the last 5 or 6 years, we're doing things like secure entrances and mechanical upgrades and, relatively minor sorts of things that have not required a lot of board engagement. I mean, we've certainly approved, bid packages and gotten updates along the way and been involved in the process. But the scale of what we're talking about here is a whole next level in terms of what we're going to need to offer in terms of attention. And I know when we were coming up with the schedule for this year in our board meetings, we sort of said, hey, we're going to get into this. We're going to need some time for this. And so now is the proverbial time for that. So I think we're going to have some second meetings and, a dedicated 2 or 3 hour, block here or there every, pretty regularly so that we can understand some of the detail and nuance to this, as the, design is going to run at least through the end of the year. Is that accurate? Yeah. So we've got at least 8 more months of design, and so we've got to make sure as a board that the building meets our community standards, and we have to exercise certainly our oversight role in that. And I think that's just going to require a lot more detailed understanding. And so be ready, and with Mrs. Horst and Dr. Ryan and Mr. Goodman and the team, we'll put some of those things on the schedule. And I will say, the team that we have is the best team that we could possibly have, because we did a tremendous amount of work up front to know that this was possible and it could fit within a budget that we're talking about. And so I think at this point, we're not expecting any surprises. But the fact that we have a crew that has pulled this together and says we could actually build a building while we're still using it is amazing in and of itself.
A second question I have is, in one of those final topographical views, looking at the building both top down and at the, so is this what I'll call the bottom wall here? Is it on an angle along with this one and this one? Are those walls on angles, or are they straight up and down?
They're straight up and down.
Okay, they're just the way it looks in the picture. Okay.
It's not that creative.
Well, I was thinking because of the way that the gymnasium is and how the arc is, I thought you were hearing those angles of the walls. Yeah, that was what I was thinking too. So just wanted to make sure.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, it does.
One of the things that I just wanted to take out of the meeting that Mr. Heyer and I sat in on today, I know Mrs. Egan, Mrs. Horst, when we went to the West Bloomfield Middle School, we had the security consultant there, and a lot of the schools that are being built now are kind of going towards that neighborhood concept that he was talking about. So the wings have these neighborhoods and then these ELAs, extended learning areas. Thank you. There's so many new acronyms. It was really frustrating. The mule. But anyways, so I remember when we went to that meeting, we had there was a security issue because we were all sitting in one of these neighborhoods, and there's a glass door, and somebody's just walking through the building. And I remember all 3 of us saying, "Ooh, those
felt very exposed.
Those doors don't feel so great right now."
Right.
And I wasn't surprised at all, but I did bring it up, and of course, it had been brought up by multiple people multiple times before I ever got to it. So I just wanted everyone to know that has been talked about. They had a much better way of handling it than I felt we had seen before.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah. When we went, they had Oakland County School Board Association had one of those, they put us through a lockdown situation like the students would go through. And so
they have the kind of garage doors that just went up and you think, yikes.
Yeah, we're not having
There were
those.
Windows in
Yeah.
those, yeah. So anyway, I'm so glad that that was
Looked
brought
cool,
up and it's
felt
being
not cool.
considered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
All
All right.
right. a bar, huh?
Anything else?
Yeah.
All right, well, more to come. Looks like we'll be seeing you next month then.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, item 7.2, report items, is our monthly finance update. Mrs. Rogers.
Way down to me. Okay, so this is the current monthly financial update that will get us through March 31st, 2023. You are provided with information from February and March. And I have entered all the amended budget that you approved in February, so this will have the current amended budget in it. So you're talking to a budget to actual revenues of 63.69%, budget to actual 60 in expenses 64%, and and as you can normally this time of year you start seeing the fund balance starting to go up if that's the incline we're on, and we are expecting surplus this year in our fund balance. So we're at about just over 17.2 million right now, but we've got a lot of activity to obviously do between now and August. And if you have any questions on any of the check registers or any of the data that was provided to you in the last 2 months.
Any questions on the monthly finance report? Okay, hearing none. We can move on to our discussion items. 8.1 is a budget discussion. We're going to review our board affordability model. And do we have a new copy, or is this a new?
She updated it.
Okay, it's updated.
It's just the 50 loss, yep.
There was just one little clerical, we noticed a number earlier when we were reviewing it, and it doesn't change the numbers that are in it. It was just a clerical entry in the top. Yes. Sorry, I had to re-enter my-
This is where we're at since the last time we brought this to you. We implemented your assumptions. We've implemented any new data that's come. The first column is the amended budget that I added. That's what you approved at the last board meeting. That wasn't available when we brought this to you in January. So that's your first column. That's just the amended budget where we're at right now. And then each of the years, I brought out 3 years. So I added another year, 25, 26. So now we're still got your 3 years for you. And we put in 50 student loss because that's what you asked for in January, was to go down from 100 to 50. So we have 50 student loss in each year. We have the 43 open enrollment gain each year. And then the insurance, that's the district cost. John's anticipating this year to be around 15% increase in insurance, which you're going to see that everywhere. And the 9.5 then would be our share. That's what the employees pick up the other piece. And then we have retirement rate changes. Those don't change because the state funds the increases for us right now. Then we have the governor's budget of 450 increase for this year. And then as we go out each year, we've got them at 200 because we just don't know beyond this year. And then that puts us at 9,608 fund balance if that's what our increase is for our pupil funding. So if you go down, you'll see the changes in the revenue, and those are all just those assumptions. The 3 million is the 50 student loss, the 43 gain, and the 450 student or per pupil increase. So that's that would be another just over 3 million state funding when you put all those formulas together. And then you got your shared service and your virtual academy. If we increase our shared service 10%, that's how much more revenue we'd bring in. If you increase the virtual academy, what we think it would be increased, that would be the revenue we would bring in. You'll see there'll be corresponding expenses. And then the state and the federal funding, you'll see I dropped that 7.8 million because that we're still spending our ESSER 3, we're still spending the section funding. That money will be all spent this year, except for a little bit of summer school. When we currently now have our ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3 all spent, reported, and already given all to the state, and have already collected it all. So we still are spending just some Section 11T money. And so when we get into 24, 25, that 707 is what we have left, and that'll be for summer school and after school. We have to spread that out a couple more years to get that spent, because we do have until September 30th, 2024 to get the Section 11T money spent. Same thing with the ARP money that we got for IDEA from Oakland schools. We spent 431 this year. That money's all spent, and we've received it from the ISD, so we shouldn't be receiving that. That was a one-time funding. So that would put our revenue down to from, we would next year then, if this is where I build my budget, we would be at 2.8 million loss in revenue. Then if you go down to the expenses, the 700,000 is the 9.5% increase in your benefits. Then you have human resources, which is made up of several pieces. Do you want to go over them, or do you want me to explain what's in those pieces? The 4.63 million is the contracts that are already approved for all our staff, because we have contracts through December 2025 for the majority of our staff. So those increases are those, the 4.6, 1.8, but then also in that 4.6, you have those investment and priorities that were brought to you at the last board meeting in that 4.6, which would be the 160,000 CMS tech that you've been talking about. There's 100,000 for career counselor. You've got 100,000 for social worker, and then you've got 200,000 for SMS support. And those were brought to you at the last board meeting. So that's all in that 4.63 million. So that's what we expect our personnel costs to go up next year. And then shared service and virtual academy, those are our profit margins with shared service, and we have to add expenses when we do the revenue. So those are added. Now, if you go down to the miscellaneous, that is I removed the safety security grant expenses and some mental health grant expenses that were one-time expenses when the grants go away. But then also in that is, we did implement in that the 600,000 is in there for the technology one-to-one that was brought to you last board meeting as an investment priority, and the 200,000 for curriculum. So those both pieces now will be in the budget. So all the items that were brought to you at the last board meeting are in this board affordability model. And then we do have some planned expenditure. So that would increase your expenses just under 6.5 million. And then your planned expenditure budget reductions. That's your shared service and your virtual academy. They're reducing those programs to get us back down to closer to the caps. And that equals $1.55 million. And then there's $900,000 reduction in there for staffing. So that's where you get the 2.45 million reductions. Putting you at then a deficit spending of 3.4 million would be the budget I'll bring to you in June. And then that will put you at 14% fund balance after that for next year. And then if you just go out to the other years, you'll see we just have some more deficit spending as the years go on, unless we get more revenue from the state or we get better, if we don't lose students, or if just, there will be things that will happen, I think, over the next few years that we just don't know about. There'll be a lot more grants and stuff. We just haven't heard of them yet, or what the state's going to give us for sure in the next 2 years, the 24 and 25. But that's our plan right now for you. If you're comfortable with those pieces, then I can start to build the budget that I can bring you in June. The next step then for the budget then will be the tax public hearing. That'll bring you in May 8th. That's the next step.
Mr. Lucido, is there anything you're adding? You want to add to this?
No, Mrs. Rogers covered everything.
Okay. So really, this is the continuation of our whole spring budget cycle. Last month, we discussed priorities, broadly, and there were some numbers put to them, and now Ms. Rogers has brought back those priorities, put in, the format that she uses to show us what we can afford and how that impacts our fund equity and our bottom line. So I would open that up then, unless Dr. Ryan has anything to add, I would open it up to any comments or questions from trustees. Ms.
Madam,
McGinnis?
the first question I have is, I'd like on these charts to have some kind of denotion that shows what year's a contract, open year. Just when are we, what is our teacher contract to right now?
You mean when does it expire? December 2025.
December 2025.
Okay, so what I'm saying is somewhere like down in comments or something, it would be helpful to see that, because then you know what we're looking at in the next year. If we're already running a deficit, how we're going to get to that. So if we could just find some kind of keynote way to put that on there.
Yeah, I can put that in there. And then the contract gets you through the 2024-25.
Perfect.
So the
Thank you.
2025-26 has nothing in there for human resources. So.
Yeah, that's a good way to note it as well. It has 0.
Yeah, I can do that, though. I can
Okay,
add a
but
note
yeah, I
at
think
the
a little
bottom.
asterisk, add to your asterisk at the bottom.
Yeah, when
Okay.
it expires, yeah.
As,
Mr. Heyer?
as I look at this, I think this is right in line with what we're expecting, what we've talked about over the last few years. We have a lot of one-time money, and we want to spend that, and that's sitting in our fund equity, and so we have to run a deficit to spend that one-time money that's sitting in fund equity that technically we've already spent, but there's other money sitting in fund equity. And as we run this off, obviously 24, 25 is a little more clear, like 25, 26 is much more blurry out, 3 years of what's going to happen. I'm completely good how we're going to build the budget the next year. I would say as we start to think of that 24, 25, I would not want to run the same deficit that we're running in 23, 24. I'd want to look at structurally aligning at that point and for a soft landing, at some point in the future. And so, as much as we can sort of have a little bit of a runoff at that point, that's kind of where my head's at. And I know we're focused on the next year here, and we've got a plan for that, and that looks great. That's my 2 cents on 24, 25.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just make a real quick comment. The goal, one of the things you have to look at, and that's why this is always changing, is we're hoping this is very conservative. So the more farther years we go out, we're more conservative. So there will be areas where hopefully that changes.
We will land the plane.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions at this point? Nope.
I have one comment.
Ms. Egan?
Just that we've had these summer programs, and it would be nice if somehow we could measure some of the results to see if that's something we want to continue. I think it's great that we have this remediation available, and then for those kids that want to jump on towards the fall. Is that what I'm understanding we're still doing? Are we still doing the first beginning of summer and then the end of summer?
We will still have the summer program, and actually we're looking at expanding this summer and next summer to be more in person because a lot of it's virtual. So feedback from kids and some of my student groups have said anything you can do, Dr. Ryan, to get that in person this summer makes it a better experience. So working from the team, we're hoping to do that this summer.
Great.
And looking at, and it'll be a cooperative from general ed and special ed as well, as you see the smile from the crowd
Smile and nod. All right,
and wave.
very good. Okay, thank you both very much. I see no other comments. We'll continue down our path toward a June approval of a budget. Item 9 is citizen comments. Citizens are welcome to address the board on any topic at this point on the agenda. I don't see anyone in the audience except staff at this juncture, so we will move right past that. Item 10 is information items. Our next Board of Education meeting is Monday, May 8th. As Ms. Rogers said, at 6:45 we will have our annual public tax hearing, which we are required to do by law, followed by our 7 o'clock regular meeting. We will be meeting at Clarkston High School in the Performing Arts Center. We have an earlier meeting with our food service, and trustees, we will make use of that time and have a workshop. I don't know if it will allow us enough time to do the bond, so we may be looking at a separate meeting in May, I'm thinking, for that one, but we will, Dr. Ryan and I and Mrs. Egan will come up with a topic of both interest and joy for May, following our lunch at dinner with food service, also an annual requirement.
I'm
So
committed to interest, not joy yet. I'm committed to interest, but not joy yet.
we'll work that in. That's why you have us. We'll work that in. So just a reminder to our community that in May, on May 8th, we will be at Clarkston High School in the Performing Arts Center. And as I was thinking about May being here already, and just as an aside, Mrs. McLean, if you could be putting together that master calendar for the board of all those May events that we could go ahead and get on our calendars. It comes up so quickly and it's so busy, and I know trustees want to get as many events as they can on their calendars. That would be much appreciated.
I have a question.
Oh, Ms.
Do we
Egan.
have lunch for dinner that same evening still over at the high school?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So we are meeting at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
And I believe we will be going through the lunch line, as students do.
Yes. Okay.
I don't have any more details than that at this moment, but we'll, me either. Okay, item 11 is adjournment. May I have a motion, please?
Move to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Never. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.